Let's clear up LGBTQ plus civil rights. In queer America, progress has been made, but many still struggle. 20 years ago this month, the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Texas' ban on sodomy, ruling that states could not criminalize homosexuality. John Lawrence and Tyron Garner were the plaintiffs in that watershed ruling. Until then, LGBTQ plus people living in Texas and 13 other states lived under a dark cloud cast by laws that allowed law enforcement to arrest them for participating in consenting behavior among adults conducted in their private residences. In the 20 years since, advocates have secured major victories and cemented key rights, including marriage equality, employment protections, and the ability to serve in the military. Victories that likely would not have been achieved without the foundation of Lawrence v. Texas. Yet, not all members of the LGBTQ plus community have equally benefited from evolving attitudes toward and legal protections for the queer community. Notably, transgender people still face discrimination and violence at higher rates than their lesbian, gay, and bisexual peers. In recent years, as trans people have gained visibility in the public sphere, familiar anti-LGBTQ plus tropes have emerged in efforts to alienate this community. Advocates say this attention has prompted a new wave of legislation that in recent years that targets LGBTQ plus people, largely pushed by Republicans who have campaigned on these issues. And I wrote something down, and I'm not sure I want to start with that, because it's like I'm kind of repeating myself that, you know, we just want to be left alone. But, you know, I'm going to say this. As a result of doing this, I've come to meet trans people who are amazing. And I mean,
we're all just people. At the end of the day, we're all just human beings with veins and blood and bones.
You know, I love to quote a song from my remote youth, and somebody's going to have to help me because I'm old and my CD shuffle just hit a short circuit. But
what's a CD?
All I want is to be left alone in my average Rockwell. Rockwell. Somebody's watching me. All I want is to be left alone in my average home.
Yeah. And I hate to be that guy, but this is probably going to be something the Supreme Court revisits. A consequence of people not voting in 2016.
We say this all the time on the show. Vote, vote, vote. Get your friends to vote. And don't forget complacency. We became very complacent, and that is ultimately our enemy. We must never, ever stop fighting. I've been fighting for a long, long time, and I will continue to fight. We must never stop fighting for the rights of our people.
I want to, the story that you read, Bob, one of the things it says in that story is largely by Republicans. And I just want to say, it's not largely by Republicans, it is Republicans. Like that is like, and I think we can mix this up.
No exaggeration, like,
this is not coming from that is like, the attacks are definitely coming from the GOP. I will also say, like, to move it back to Barbara Giddings and Frank Hammoney, but you know, this was such an important point 20 years ago with Lawrence v. Texas, because it wasn't like people were being prosecuted for sodomy laws like with any kind of regularity. It was so important to find, like, you know, to learn that the state government was no longer just criminalizing you as a person, right? Like for your personhood. Not unlike Giddings and Frank Camp, who was fighting so much to remove homosexuality from the list of mental disorders, which they got done in 1973. To wake up one day and be told you're no longer sick is so powerful. And like what that does, and that's exactly what these laws today are doing. They're telling trans people that they are not worthy of life, that they're not worthy of respect, that you are doing such harm. What you're doing is criminal. It's such an affront to human existence, and it's such a problem.
Just like they do with every marginalized group now. Women, black people, Jewish people,
immigrants.
It's not just even the laws they're trying to do. What they're also trying to incite violence from. From private, because you can only do so much from the state unless you have absolute power, and so what they want to do right now is encourage violence. You can see this through the rhetoric that our politicians are using and what they're using. This. Open Twitter and you see right-wingers saying stuff like, you got to stop them from grooming our children. What they're doing is they're trying to get people killed.
I want to bring home a point you touched on. You know, we are no longer sick.
Yeah.
I think that's really stinking important that we emphasize it right here, right now, because I guarantee you there's a teenager watching this in secret who needs to hear they're not sick.
For sure.
Never
and
was.
they need to know.
Never was.
And thank you, and never was.
Well said.
And they need to hear what our esteemed host, the Reverend, the lead minister here.
Darrell.
Thank you, Darrell Watkins. You know, I have heard him say this several times. Even God cannot heal what is not sick.
Yeah.
You are not sick and you never were.
Right.
The true sickness are the people who use hate to target other people, more vulnerable people. That's true sickness.
Y'all are giving me life today. Love it.
Yeah.
It is the sociopathy. Oh, that word. Psychopathy is a disease.
We are Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only live daily LGBTQ+ evening news show, brought to you from Happening Out Television Network. We operate in the same model of PBS and NPR, but for the LGBTQ+ community. We educate, inform, and entertain by supporting the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ+ community, with more than 100,000 a week watching us on Roku, Apple Television, and other channels. To keep the story going, we accept donations with 100% transparency. Stay updated and live authentically with Queer News Tonight.